This is the Builders Business Success Podcast for builders who want to attract more quality clients who aren't price-focused, eliminate cash flow pressure, and get paid for every quote. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, welcome to another Builders Business Success Podcast. I almost forgot what I was doing. It's off to a good start. Don't worry, folks. I'm a professional. I know exactly what I'm doing. So, if you've never participated, listened to, engaged in a Builders Business Success podcast in the past, its purpose is to address all of the common and often costly problems that builders find running their building business. And we took a little bit of a left turn a number of episodes ago, and we decided to write a book. And the book's content is all about everything that we talk about, teach, coach, support our Builders Business Black Belt members on. So all of that content from soup to nuts, from end to end. And each one of these episodes is basically either a chapter or a sub-chapter of that book. And how we're doing it is we're creating the content through the podcast, and then that's going to be turned into a transcript and then obviously into a book. So the cool thing about that is if there's something that you want to know about, if there's something that you would like to have addressed in the book, you can actually contribute to that content by simply reaching out to us through Facebook. We're currently going live in Builders Business Success Forum, which is a free Facebook group. You can jump in there. You can message me through Facebook Messenger. You can email me on mick@buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au and make your suggestions about what you would like to have covered. Obviously, we already have a process, and it's a well thought out and a proven process, because Builders Business Black Belt is kind of like a laboratory where we have ideas as a group, and those ideas are implemented into a real live building business. In fact, quite a few of real live building businesses. And we do this day by day. We are having what's called a momentum call 4 days a week in Black Belt. So we talk to the whole group 4 days a week. We invest an hour together every single day, and we're sharing ideas within the group. Those ideas are implemented into businesses, and we get feedback as to whether this works, whether it doesn't, whether it kind of worked, so we can throw ideas around to fix it, to refine it, and then it's implemented again. So we're constantly getting feedback day by day about what works. And this is the information that we're talking about in the podcast, and also that will go in the book. But as I said, if you've got something specific that you would like to cover, all you need to do is reach out to us. And we can tell you that it's already going to be covered, or that we could add it to the content, no problem at all. So what we're doing today, just clear the throat. That's not what we're doing. We're talking about stuff. And the focus of today's episode is really all about knowing your ideal prospect intimately. With a great deal of detail. So we'll get into that shortly. We're also going to answer a very common question. The question is how to get more leads. I'm often asked, how do I get more leads? When people join the Builders Business Success Forum, they're asked a couple of questions. So what's your specialty? What do you focus on? We ask for your email address so we can send you to a really cool training that we get awesome feedback about. And then the final question is, what would you like help with? And one of the most common questions is, how do I get more leads? So I'm going to address that in this episode as well as giving you a personal productivity hack so you can get more effective activity, outcomes, results done in your day. So we are going live into the Builders Business Success Forum, the free Facebook group. So if you are watching it live, what I'd love you to do is put a hashtag live into the comment section so we know if anybody is watching us live. And also, if you're watching the replay, put in hashtag replay. And even if you are watching the replay and you've got questions as we go through, or want to make any comments as we go through, whether you're watching live or the replay, just bang them in the comment section And hopefully we can address them as we go. If not, I can certainly address them after the podcast is done. I can come back to you and answer your questions or address any of your comments or concerns. So get into the comment section, whether you're watching live or a replay. Let's get into today's topic. And today's topic is knowing your prospect intimately. And keep your mind out of the gutter. That's not what I'm talking about. I just want you to know everything about them, what they think, what they feel, what their priorities are, what their concerns are, and so forth. Super important. I've quite often asked builders in an initial conversation with them, who is your ideal prospect? And understand the difference between a prospect and a client. And we'll sort of talk about this in future episodes. People go from being a suspect to a prospect to a client. A suspect is someone that you suspect that could be interested in your services, whether it's renovations, extensions, full home, whatever you specialise in. You suspect that they may be interested. Then when they show their hand and they ask questions or engage or whatever, they become a prospect. And then if they're the right fit and they go through the process again that we'll be talking about in future episodes, they then become a client. But we've got to understand the mentality of each of those parts of the process that your suspect then transforms into a prospect, then they transform into a client. So their level of understanding, their knowledge, and most importantly, their trust in you is different at each of those points. So we've got to communicate differently at each of those different points. And so I often ask, who is your ideal prospect? Or and straight away I think I get the answer from most builders that they tell me who their ideal client is. And it's a different question. And often they'll just say, someone with money. That's their criteria of the ideal client. And I just think, really? That's it? That's what you understand? No wonder you're complaining that you don't get good quality clients. No wonder your clients are always price focused. No wonder there is such low levels of trust between builders and clients when the only criteria the builder has is someone with money. Because if you're thinking about that, what are you interested in? You're probably only interested in the money. If you're only interested in the money, guess what? They're only going to be interested in the money. And then we get into this tug of war, and it's just a lose-lose situation for everyone. So we need to do things very different. You remember in a previous episode, we talked about the 3 questions for attracting quality prospects. And the first question you needed to ask yourself is, what are the ideal projects that I just love doing? Because when you love something, it ceases being work. Then the second question is, who are the ideal people who would have those projects? Because it's so much better when you're working with ideal people that you get on with, people that there's a high level of trust and you work together as a team. It changes the energy on a building site or over a building project completely. So who are those right people? But then the third question is, are we attractive? That's the main question. But you can't ask question 2 until you've asked question 1, and you can't ask question 3 until you've asked question 2. So you've got to ask all of those questions. But we need to be asking that question. Once you've got 1 and 2 down, are we attractive? Because you need to know the person you're trying to attract. You need to know them intimately. And yes, I said a person. And it's really important to understand that whenever you're doing any sort of attract content, so that is Facebook posts or emails or videos or whatever it might be, you've got to create the content as if you are talking to one person. As I am talking to you right now, in my mind, I am talking to one person at the other side of this camera lens here and at the other end of this microphone. I'm just talking to you. I'm not talking to everybody. I'm just talking to you. And if you are our ideal client or prospect for Builder's Business Black Belt, I guess this information is going to make sense to you. If it doesn't resonate with you, well, you're probably not a right fit for us, which is totally fine. You can still get this information and implement it, but we probably wouldn't be working together. So that's one thing about one person. The other thing we've got to remember with our messaging and our positioning, if your ideal clients are a couple from, of a specific age and socioeconomic bracket, I put it to you that only one of those people are going to be the person that takes the first action. And that's really important to remember with your attract strategy content, is that it's almost impossible to put really magnetic, attractive content out there that will attract both of the partners in if you're looking at husband and wife or whatever the case may be. Only one of them will tend to take action at that early stage. Through the rest of the parts of your process, through the qualification process and definitely the build process, you need to be catering for everybody. But at this attract stage, you need to be getting as clear as possible as who will be that person that makes the first move, takes that first action, and that's reaching out to you by phone or filling out a form or downloading something on your website or whatever it might be. And as I said, all messaging and positioning needs to be written to one person, not a group, one person, not a partnership, one person. So I hope I've made that clear. Now, the person that you need to be speaking to may not even exist, because the key with this is for you to build what is commonly known as an avatar. You've probably seen the movie. It's a digital representation of a personality. Maybe something that might, and this is probably a lousy analogy as well, but if you've seen the movie, Frankenstein's monster. I'm not asking you to create a monster, but I'm using that analogy from the perspective that we create this one person, this ideal person, out of all of the best bits of the people that you've perhaps worked with in the past. So building an avatar is really that simple. Go back and go, who have been our ideal clients? And what was ideal about them? And you look at all of their personality traits, and you think about what were their desires, what were their aspirations, but also what were their fears and what were their frustration. And as you build this Frankenstein's monster, as you build your avatar, you get all of the best bits from everybody and build this person and ask all of these questions about what is their age. So as you're building your avatar, it's not an age bracket between 40 and 50, because I've been both of those ages and I'm just about to be another decade on after that as well. And your priorities and the way you think and what's important to you is very different between 40 and 50, even 40 and 45, and very, very different between 40 and 60, or even 50 and 60. So you need to select a very specific age. Also, what is the marital status? Is it their first marriage? Is it their second marriage? Ask yourself, would this ideal client have kids? And if so, how many? And if so, what ages? And are they working, living with your potential clients? Or are they at school? Have they moved out? All of this sort of stuff. If they are going to school, do they go to a private school or do they go to a public school? Remember, this person may not exist. You're just creating the ideal person. So when you put out your messaging and all of your positioning statements, you are speaking to this one person. And the cool thing about this is that you are narrowing and narrowing and narrowing your message. And a narrower message gets more reach than a broad message. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's how it works, folks. Get really, really narrow. A lousy example I've used in the past is you're at a party and you're meeting people for the first time, and you meet this snoozer, and you're getting to know them, and you go, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm an accountant." And you go, "Oh, it's good. How's business?" Da da da. And he was a nice person, and all of this sort of stuff. And then you meet a few other people. And then a bit later in the evening, you meet another guy, and you get to that "what do you do" conversation, and he says, "Well, actually, I'm an accountant, but I specialize in left-handed plumbers." That's going to get your attention. Okay, that message there just cut through more than the first guy who said that I'm an accountant, because basically, if you can imagine, what we've all got in our minds are pigeonholes. And we've got a pigeonhole for the doctor and the dentist and the candlestick maker and all of that sort of stuff. And we've got a pigeonhole for an accountant. Okay. And generally, for most of us, that pigeonhole is full. We've got an accountant. But believe it or not, folks, you have a pigeonhole for an accountant that specializes in left-handed plumbers. I'll bet it's empty. And so if this person says, "I am specializing in this very, very narrow field," there is a place in your mind for remembering that. And here's the thing, that you're at another barbecue and you just happen to be talking to your left-handed plumber mate, and he's talking about some problems he's been having financially. He goes, "I remember talking to a dude who specializes in left-handed plumbers." And we all love getting support, direction, and help from specialists. Generalists know a little bit about a lot of things. Specialists know a lot about a few things, and they can help you to a greater degree. When the generalists can't fix our problems, we generally go and see a specialist. And so we are attracted to specialists. Specialists get remunerated at a much higher level than generalists. So you need to become a specialist. And you can do that with your messaging and positioning. But you need to know who you are speaking to. The more you know about your ideal prospect, the more refined your message will be. Therefore, it will resonate. It will cut through and it will resonate. It will be remembered. And it will, because it resonates with them, when a message resonates, it tends to begin the whole trust process, that the trust starts to elevate. So we need to do all of that, learning as much as possible. Like I said, the kids, their interests and passions, what their household income is this person that's going to take the first action working or not? If so, what sort of work do they do? What sort of car do they drive? What sort of suburb do they live in? And when you get all of that detail, you start to have the ability to put yourself in their shoes. And that's when it starts to become easier to build a list of fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations from their perspective. And this is going to be a key bit of information for you in the future, because as you start to put content out there, what we'll be talking about is the content you need to put out there where people see it for the first time is simply talking about their fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations. In other words, their problems and their priorities from their perspective. You don't need to talk about yourself. You don't even need to talk about solutions, because it has been proven that if a person genuinely feels that you understand their problem as well, if not better than they do, they convict you of being guilty of having the solution. You don't even have to mention it. So it makes it so much more simple for the content creation for your social media and website and all of your digital media. All you need to talk about are those fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations. And the more accurate you can get them, the more refined you get them, the more magnetic they will be, the more impactful they will be, and you will get better reactions and better people quality people, more, I suppose, qualified people reaching out to you. So I hope that has been valuable. One more thing before I leave this. As you're writing down fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations, what I want you to remember is this, that a fear and an aspiration are generally sort of, whatever the fear is, the aspiration is probably the solution to that fear. But a fear and an aspiration are in the future. Remember that. So that's something they're thinking about in the future. Whereas a frustration and a want is normally the solution to the frustration, but they are present. They are in the now. So just think about that as you're capturing your fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations. Some are in the future, some are now, and that is really relevant for when you're going to be putting your content together. And we'll talk about that in future episodes. So if this is making sense and you want to have a chat about anything that we've talked about so far, I encourage you to book a call. In fact, what I've done right now, I've just put, or have I? No, I haven't. There we go. If I click there. So Paul James is with us live, and I had my comment all ready to go and press the button, but Paul beat me to the punch and he put a comment in there, so I had to put it back in there. But it's in there. There's a link there. If you hit that link, it just takes you to a form, fill it out. It tells us a little bit more about your business, because there are so many resources in Builders Business Success Forum and all sorts of other places that if you jump on a quick call, tell us what it is that is in your way. We can point you to those resources real fast. It'll save you a whole lot of time. It'll be exactly what you need. And it just increases your progress, and you don't have to be sort of mining the dirt to get to the gold, as we say. So we can point you straight there. So if you hit that link, it's in the comment section, or if you're watching this on the blog, there's a button underneath the video. Just hit that, fill out a little form, tells us a bit about you, and then you can schedule a quick call and we can point you in the right direction. So thank you for doing that, Paul James. And just as a reminder, if you are watching live, as Paul James did, put a hashtag live in. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag live. Now, Q&A. The question that we get asked very, very frequently is, how do I get more leads? Fair enough, because if I haven't got enough work, your mind goes to, I need more leads. But in fact, you don't. You need more quality clients. That's what you need. And if you haven't got a process that can create a quality client, generating more leads means that you will just burn those leads. You will burn your money, you will burn your effort. So my solution or my answer to that question is always, are you sure that's the right question? Because in 99% of the cases, it's the wrong question. And we just started to talk about that in the previous part of the podcast, about what we need to do to attract better quality leads. But you need something in place before you start spending major time, money, and effort into lead generation. So how do I get more leads is probably the wrong question. You must first have a qualified process. And a qualified process is something that we've been building, refining, implementing for quite some time now, and it is profound in its effect as to how it saves you time, gets rid of the wrong people out of your business, but gets somebody who could have potentially turned out to be a bit of a nightmare, with a bit of education, they become a really, really good quality client. So the qualified process, even though it kind of says, you're in and you're out, that's what the word qualify means. The purpose and the function of the qualification process that we teach, at least, and it's called the quality client pathway is what we call it, because that's what it is. It's a pathway for quality clients. It's not just getting people, in and out of the system. But instead of asking, how do I get more leads? Ask yourself, have I got a quality qualification process in place first? Because that gets rid of the time wasters, prevents you from burning time, money, and effort in lead generation when you haven't got a quality process to deal with those leads when they come through. So we'll be talking about that obviously in future episodes because, as I said, we're unpacking the content of the whole black belt process from end to end. So again, if you wanted to learn about that qualification process, more than happy to share how it works and what's necessary and all of that sort of stuff. All you need to do is just go and click that link, or if you're watching this, click the button underneath. Book a call. We only need to be on the call for, I don't know, 7-10 minutes, something like that, and we can go through what you need to put into place to make that happen. And just as a quick reminder again, as Paul James has done, he's put in #live. Thank you, Paul. Put that in if you're watching live. Put #replay if you're watching the replay. Now, one of the biggest issues for not just builders, for most people, is that they're really, really busy. And so, and quite often don't feel that they have the time to do the things that they want to do. So I want to give you a personal productivity hack. There's a ton of them. I just want to give you one that can make a difference. And this one is a big one because we quite often hear, I just didn't get what I needed to get done because I just had so many interruptions. And so how can I prevent interruptions? Well, here's the first thing. Is some gurus say allow for them, like allow some space for interruptions so you still get done what you need to get done. I call bullshit on that. Like, if you are allowing space for interruptions, you will attract them. So I say don't listen to them and don't allow for interruptions. You basically attract interruptions just by expecting them. So I'm saying to plan your day so there is no room. Ensure every action that you put in your plan has both high impact for you and high leverage for you and your business. So it has to have high levels of importance. If your day is filled with things that have high levels of importance, it's very difficult to distract you. It's very difficult to interrupt you. And the old classic analogy that I always use, when you're on your way to the airport and you're a little bit late, and your mate asks you to stop off at his place on the way to feed the goldfish because he forgot, you're probably going to say no because you are on a mission. And you can set your day up every single day with a thing called the prioritized daily action list. And some people in the black belt family have coined the name of it, the PDAL, which is just the letters, the prioritized daily action list, and they swear by it. It makes a massive difference to their productivity, their effectiveness, and that feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day. So do not allow for interruptions. I always like to give you a takeaway with all of these podcasts. This particular takeaway is pretty simple, and that is much of the stuff we see as problems every day and we wish that it would go away is of our own doing. And quite often the solution is changing the way we see that problem. And I love the quote from Stephen Covey. He says, the way we see the problem is the problem. And then when we flip that around, the problem disappears. The classic example of that is something I just talked about a little minute ago with the quality client pathway. The way that most builders interact in that sort of conversation with prospects is that the builder wants to be picked, okay? And the problem is that they're not being picked. They're not being selected for the job. If you change that mindset, if you change the way you see that problem and you see yourself as the prize, you see yourself as the judge, you then communicate with your prospects in a very different manner. And it changes the whole dynamic, and they are then selling you why you should allow them into your business. It's a very different approach. So as I said, if any of this stuff resonated with you and you want to talk about where some resources are you can find to get into this, all you need to do is book a call. You can do that by clicking the link in the comments. You can do it by clicking the button underneath the video if you're watching it on the blog. If you are just listening to the audio version of this, the audio only version, you just need to navigate to buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au, and there are schedule a call buttons on that website. You just press them and follow that process. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can jump on a real quick call, point you in the right direction, away you go. And of course, if you still have questions, you can jump into the Builders Business Success Forum and ask away. There's a lot of really cool people in that Facebook group, and you can ask a bunch of questions, and everybody learns from everybody's questions and answers and engagement. So it's a very cool place to be. So that's it for this episode 40 something. What did I say? 43, I've just been told. Episode 43, and it's written on the screen in front of me. I don't know why I just didn't read it. That's it for this episode 43 of Builders Business Success Podcast. We will be back again at 10 a.m. next Tuesday in the Builders Business Success Forum. If you want to join us live, love to see you then. I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt. That is it for today. Bye for now.
Okay, that's the podcast. If you have a question or want to know how Mick can help with your building business, email your request to mick@buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au. Do it now.